right. Thanks again for joining us on the VWIDTalk podcast here with Wes and Jan. And today we are going to talk about several different things. One is Jan was lucky enough to go to the Seattle Auto Show, and he's going to tell us some of what he saw there, including brands that surprised him in a positive way that are not VW, and also some impressions of the Audi Q6, which I've not seen yet. And we also did a poll on the ID Talk forums asking people what their next EV would be, or what their next car would be. And we got some good feedback on that. And then we're going to do a recap of some of the episodes we recorded so far, and let you know kind of what you've been missing if you're not subscribing yet. So Jan, do you want to talk about the auto show first?
Yeah, thank you so much. So there was a 4-day event here in Seattle. It's called International Seattle Auto Show, and I really encourage everybody who is in the market or who wants to explore new vehicles to go onto show like that in your city, in your state, because there was so many manufacturers and so many cars were available for test drive. So if you want to test drive Macan Electric, or if you want to test drive Kia EV6, like you have opportunity to do that. And
Great.
So this was really, really awesome. It was like very hands-on experience. And Wes, you mentioned the brands that really surprised me. So I was positively surprised by Toyota about how their design have evolved, how many different styles of cars they had. Because for me, Toyota, we had 2006 RAV4, which was really, really nice car. And then we switched into Hyundai, pronounced as Sunday, Tucson. So we considered it as an upgrade from the Toyota. And so now I feel like Toyota really caught up and they really like jumped up with their design. Of course, we don't want to talk about their all electric because they probably do much better on the hybrid side.
I see. So you're not talking about just electric. You're talking about all of their,
all their cars, like the RAV4, they have a hybrid on almost any model.
The new Prius design is really great. I think it looks
beautiful. Exactly. That car is amazing. So there are a lot of amazing cars from Toyota. So that was surprise number one for me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what's the other? You were going to say what the other surprise was.
So the other surprise, there were two more. The other surprise was GM and especially Chevy. And I probably would not, as a European, I would not be keen on test driving a Chevy vehicle, but I test drove the electric Equinox, the 2025 Equinox. I was amazed. So that was fun. They, of course, had the Blazer and the Silverado EV, and they, of course, make these cars also with their other brands, and they collaborate with Acura for making the Blazer-like EV.
So it's the Honda Prologue and the Acura 3 letters.
Yeah.
So, and the Equinox is meant to be their entry level
brand. Yes, entry level. So interestingly, it has almost same battery as the ID.4 or similar size battery, but it has up to 320 miles of range, which was surprising. And I tried to
more efficiency.
More efficiency, but I mean, is it really about efficiency? What I was feeling when I was talking to the reps from the Chevy booth is that they also can work more efficiently with the battery buffer, right? So the battery buffer meaning the portion of the battery capacity that is not available for normal driving. And the car definitely is not like a sports car. It feels like ID.4 that is charged to 20%, right? So it's like 60% of the power that the ID.4 has, which is totally fine, right? It gives you more range. So I really liked it.
Particularly for a much less expensive car. That's a compromise plenty of people are willing to make. So good.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And they even brand it as like, hey, it's the most accessible EV on the market in the 320 mile range. So that was really, really surprising.
Yeah. Well, great. It's good to hear that GM's doing good things. I mean,
totally.
The more people that do good vehicles, the good EVs, particularly, the better.
Yeah.
So,
and of course they have the Silverado, the pickup, right? The 200 kilowatt battery in there. So it's like machine, exactly, monster machine of yes, absolutely.
So, what was your impression of the Silverado? Did you like it? Did you think
Yeah,
a truck person would want?
I'm not a truck person. As a European, I'm not much of a truck person. But yeah, it looked
But you
really
could fit a
nice,
gun rack in there.
and
You
for
could
sure.
definitely fit a big. Okay,
For
good.
sure. And I spoke with somebody who test drove it, and they were like, they were completely amazed. They were totally amazed how nimble the car is, because it has just insane power, and how long range it is, because it had over like 400 miles range. Or
400. All right.
it's significant. So I'm looking at the Silverado EV here, 200 kilowatt hour battery, and of course the curb weight is 8,000 pounds, right? So that's
Goodness gracious.
that's a
That's not the gross vehicle weight rating. That's the curb weight.
yeah. I'm not sure if it's like a surprise, but it's more like a EV maker or a car maker on a roll, which definitely is the Hyundai Kia, because they have new designs of their cars. And what was really interesting is that across Hyundai and Kia, they have a portfolio of sedans with the Ioniq 6. Of course, they have the Ioniq 5 and EV6 in more like an hatchback style, or EV4, the ID.4 style. And they also they also have the Kia EV9, which is the almost like the bus or the big three-row
It's the
SUV.
Suburban,
Yeah.
the Kia Suburban, basically. So they, I've seen a lot more Ioniq 6s around recently, and they're nice looking cars. The back is very space age looking, but doesn't it get like 400 miles of range as well? It's or 350 is something. It's a shocking efficiency number, and they're pretty nice looking. If you want a sedan, and you don't want to have to buy the Porsche Taycan, you want a 4-door sedan. I mean, that's your choice. Is the Hyundai Ioniq 6.
Yep.
It's a really nice looking car.
Yep. And I also had a chance to be driven in an ID.Buzz, because I really was not thinking about driving the car, because I wanted to enjoy the spacious interior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting all the way back in the very far row. The bus had the roof, and even the third row has so much space. So I really felt like a king back there. It was just beautiful. And
were there cup holders back there? You could
I think yes, okay, I think so. And then it had the captain's chairs in the second row, and the seats are so well made. It was like so very well made. It was the blue with the white roof.
Oh, nice.
So
nice. And did they do the switch for the electrochromatic roof? Did you get to see it?
Yes. It changes. The whole thing changes. It's not like just parts of the roof would change as on some higher end vehicles, but this is either you dim it. It's like a milky glass versus full transparent glass. But honestly, in the Seattle weather that we had yesterday, it all felt milky, but it was not the problem of the roof.
Right. Yeah. Well, I really think that's a cool feature. I'm glad they added it. We looked into getting that technology for our office at one point.
Okay.
It's basically like an LCD panel, right?
Like a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we realized we couldn't afford it. But yeah, I think it's great. I mean, then you don't have to have a mechanical shade. It's less to break. So good. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And how about the Audi Q6? You told me you got to drive that.
Yeah, so they had actually two electric Macans. And the reason why I'm talking about Macan and Q6 is that those are the same platform. So it's the PPE, the premium platform electric, the 800-volt architecture. There was one Macan that was like a static view, and then people could also drive the Macan, but I thought, well, let me try the SQ6. It was a brand new car, 200 miles. The interior, it definitely is like a Audi interior. It felt a little bit more spacious than the Macan, and maybe that's the purpose, right? Because the sports cars tend to be like a nicer, maybe compact cabin. I don't know. That was just my feeling. And there was a lot of like plush surfaces in the SQ6. The 360 camera is a very high resolution. It just looks very good. Of course, the acceleration instant. You just hit the gas and it runs. This was actually the first VW or the VW corporate built car that has one pedal driving.
Okay, all right. Now, so as a car, you felt like the Q6 was really great, but as you were disappointed.
Well, so
Was it?
from the interior perspective, right?
Yeah.
I think that they made the same shift that VW did in their ID cars, where they completely, well, not completely, but partially, got rid of the climate controls. Like on the ID, even in the newest ID.4, you still have the swipe surfaces for temperature, but in the Q6, it's only the touchscreen. So there's
Okay.
no dedicated surface for anything climate control. And we were trying to figure out how to turn on the ventilated seat. We couldn't figure it out. At the end, we found that the car was not equipped with it.
Okay.
Okay, but it felt like the screen had a really good resolution. It was very well readable. That's like hands down. But there was so much going on, right? And so maybe, of course, like people get used to the cars that they drive, and of course, this is kind of getting used to totally. But it definitely felt like Audi all the materials. There was some
Okay.
Alcantara around, and it felt really good. When you close the door, you kind of forget about the city noise around you. So like all that was
Oh,
just like
okay.
100% Audi experience. So
So high quality car, high quality interior, great driving, but
yep.
just disappointing. I mean, some things like honestly, I would expect a car in the price range of a mid-range Audi to have ventilated seats, to have most features. Honestly, I mean, maybe you don't have the head-up display or something like
The
that,
head-up
but
display was there actually. Yeah,
it
that
was
was
there.
there.
Okay.
Head-up was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, well,
Yeah.
good. I mean, I'm glad you liked it mostly. It just wasn't. It wasn't head and shoulders above the ID.4. You don't think?
I actually realized like how much I love my ID.4, right? And so how the minimalist interior is really good with some compromises in having still some physical touch controls, right? And
Okay.
one thing that I really was missing in all those cars is because in the ID.4 we have this small display that is attached to your steering wheel. So no matter how much you adjust your steering wheel, you're still moving the display with your steering wheel, which is not the case for those other cars that I've driven. And so at that point, it's almost like, okay, so how convenient it is for me. Plus, how should I adjust it so I can still see the display? Right. So, like, of course, like I had like this applies to any legacy car because all cars had the physical needles in the front of your steering wheel. But this was something that I kind of realized how futuristic the ID.4 is.
Yeah. Well, I actually really like that feature of the ID.4. I love having that. They call it the binnacle, right, attached to the steering wheel.
Yep.
And honestly, I really like. I've always liked the drive selector, the gear selector. I feel like that's
Yes.
something that they
Yes.
did really well.
And that was another thing that was like very unique for each car. And again, it's just getting used to, right? The way how you shift into D or B or reverse is different on the Chevy Equinox, or when you get into the Audi, it's more like what you used to from your ICE vehicles, because there's still this like small knob on the center console that you use to
Yeah.
shift into gears, right?
Okay. All right.
So
Well,
it's different by the manufacturer, but again, it's just a matter of getting used to. So I think my outcome was the key takeaway. If you really like to explore some other cars, if you're in the market for cars, just check some of these events that might be closer to you, and also maybe if there are some like premium brands that you may not that you think you may not afford, just check some offers, because they might have some good lease offers that might kind of enable you to jump
yeah.
into some of those brands.
Now, one thing you said earlier that you didn't say here is that you not just that you saw the Chevy Equinox, but you test drove the Chevy Equinox as well.
Mhm.
What did you think about your drive experience in that?
So I
You
loved
hadn't talked
the
to me before.
interior. I love the interior that it had knobs for everything. Volume knob. It had knobs for the climate control. Right, so temperature, the buttons in the middle, real buttons on the steering wheel, 4 window switches. You won't believe they had 4 window switches,
Wow,
and
it's crazy what they can do nowadays.
I know. And so what I felt a little overwhelmed, but that was the same when I got used to from on the ID.4, which is the smaller display in the front, right? So there's a limited number of information. And I feel like VW did a great job on adding all the information that I need. And so, for example, on the Chevy, like my first question, it said 290 miles range. And I'm like, great, what's the state of charge? And we had to kind of find the view of the central display that had the state of charge, which was 90%. So 290 miles on 90%, that kind of correlates to those 320 that they talk about. So that was definitely, like, the range is definitely great. The Super Cruise was really, like, interesting. The seat vibration, or the front cushion vibration, that was really good. What from the driving dynamics, it's not a sports car, and it felt like our ID.4 on 20% state of charge. So when you hit the gas, or hit the accelerator pedal, it doesn't give you this instant kick, right? It definitely picks up, right? But it raises slowly. And again, the speculation may be that they may have worked more efficiently with the extra capacity of the battery that is normally kept reserved for battery optimization, that is not accessible. So maybe it has something to do that they lowered the power a little bit, but gave you a little bit more extra battery. So you can kind of do the trade-off between power and battery, right?
But for an entry-level family car, it sounds like it might really fill a nice niche. It's good.
Yeah.
So speaking of other cars, you did a poll on the ID.Talk VW ID.Talk forum, asking people what their next car purchase would be, and basically we were trying to figure out: are people, since it's a Volkswagen ID forum, are people going to get another ID, or are people going to get, so you're showing it here. So it looks like most people would pick something made in the U.S. Which may be the new Scout brand for VW.
Yeah. That's, and it's like 40%. And by the way, the question was, what would be your next dream car after ID.4? So those were the ID.4 drivers. And we had 104 responses. So there's some statistical significance.
That's a good number of responses. But so for people listening to this, 40% of folks said that they would buy a US-made EV. That'll be like either a Scout, Rivian, Ford, General Motors, or something like that. Another 12% said that they would pick some other brand. Another 11% said they would pick something in the VW brand family that's not a VW, like either an Audi or a Porsche or a Skoda. And then this kind of surprised us. I know, Jan, you said you were surprised that 11% also said they would pick the next gen ID.4 or ID.5. So that's a significant percentage of people that like their ID.4, I think.
Agreed. Totally. And that's great. Again, we spoke many times about how we love the car and why we love it. And so that's really great that people would continue with the evolution.
And now 10% said they would get the ID.7 Tourer.
Yes.
And for people in the United States, no, of course, we won't get the Tourer, but Tourer means wagon.
Yes.
The Tourer in Europe is what they call their sport wagon, really. And the ID.7 is really nice, but that's, as far as I know, not something we're going to be able to buy here in the United States, right? At least so far.
We shall see. We shall see. I got some email that from VW recently that, hey, there are some news coming. So who knows?
Okay, well, maybe they will. Hopefully they'll change their mind. Because I know there are at least some car nerds, and those are the people that influence other people's decisions, that really love the Tourer. We had 9% of folks say that they would like the ID.Buzz.
Yep.
And then 8% said they would get one of the Geely vehicles, either like Volvo or Polestar. 8% said Tesla.
Or Tesla, right? So that's interesting that the Tesla and the Polestar was on the same percent.
Right. Yeah. And just like we said earlier, the ID.4, ID.5, and the other VW brand, like either a Porsche Macan or Audi, was the same, 11%.
Yep.
And then we start getting down to smaller percentages. We got a Golf size.
Probably not statistically significant that much, but
a handful of people said they get, if there's something that was the size of a Golf, a hatchback.
Exactly.
Which I still hope they offer here.
Exactly. We'll see.
So
yeah,
all right.
Cool. So this was great. So thank you to everybody who voted. And if you join the VW ID.Talk and search for what's your next dream EV after ID.4, that's a poll. You can see the discussion, and you can of course contribute to. You can cast your vote as well.
All right.
Cool. So that was fun. So here's one quick quiz for you, Wes. Do you know what is the one thing that is in common between the Polestar 3 and all the ID vehicles?
So I cheated. I looked this up already.
Hmm.
Is that cheating to study for a quiz? I'm going to say that they also have 2 window switches.
Yes, they do have 2 window switches as well. But I think Polestar learned from the VW implementation and the rear button, so the button that you use to switch between what these 2 physical switches control, is it front or rear? It's A, in the front of those window switches, and B, it feels like it's some real button. So it really is pressable and it's clicky. So you know if you pressed it or no. So anyway.
Well, that seems like a significant improvement. A better improvement would have been to have 4 window switches. But yeah. What do we know? All right. And so we wanted to talk about, I guess, just do a recap of our episodes we've done so far.
Yeah. And just like reflecting back, like what was the most exciting for us and why we think so. And because you might be following this channel this might be your first episode that you're looking at. And then you might be wondering, does it make sense to go back? Or maybe if you missed one episode, then you can pick up that specific episode.
It's hard to pick one for me. I mean, several of the people we're probably going to have back.
You can take 2. How about
take
2? Yeah.
I mean, we've had so many great ones. I like, personally, I really like talking with Nima from Kufatec, which we just talked to recently, because it's such a cool company that he's built, that they have these abilities to add these OEM mods. So you're not just duct taping things onto your car. You're doing things as they were meant to be from the factory. And of course, we can do that by sourcing the parts ourselves from eBay or from AliExpress. But Kufatec makes this where they built the harness and it comes as a kit and all the parts are there. And it makes it a lot easier to do those things, to get it installed. And even if you can't install it yourself, you could buy this kit and have a shop install it for you. The other one that I really have been excited about so far was United Chargers. And so Gleb was really gracious to do this for us. But, it's cool to have somebody right here in North America. They're based in Canada. Mm-hmm. But what an entrepreneurial success story. A guy that came over from Belarus because he wanted to explore the freedom over here. And he's taken his engineering background, his love of electric cars, and made quite a great business out of it. But honestly, I love talking to everybody. Well, I'll let you say before I start rolling through them. John, what were your favorites?
Yeah, so I loved, because I'm a modder, right? So I love modding. So of course, like Nima's discussion was really great. But I would highlight 2 others, which was the podcast that we did with Bill Carlson, who took his DeLorean and he retrofitted all the electric components, including drivetrain from Chevy Bolt. So now he has an electric DeLorean, and he did it himself without any manuals, without any.
He didn't buy a kit.
Solutions. Exactly, he didn't buy a kit. Well, the Chevy Bolt was his kit, in a way. Yeah. Right?
No instructions included. Yeah, that's really impressive.
Exactly. So that was a really fun episode. And another one is because as I was diving deep into some of the modifications, I realized that it's not just about adding those components, but it's also about adaptation, or kind of setting the expectations to those other controllers that, hey, there is now something additional that you may want to talk to and support. And the coding that is needed to be done. And VCDS from Rostec, that has been a tool that helped me a lot, because without their tool, I wouldn't be able to compare all those 3,000 adaptations between the Euro car that had the Euro taillight and my car, and kind of figure out what are the differences and what is it that I need to set. So the discussion with Andy was a great discussion as well.
Oh yeah, well, it's so great of him to do that. I mean, our hobby shop, I don't know how many of our listeners know this, but our hobby shop now has Otis, which is the factory VW tool. And I got to say that the VCDS is much easier to use than Otis is. And I feel like I can do more. Maybe Otis can do things that I just don't know how to do it yet, but goodness gracious, I've gotten to where I would unlock things with Otis and then use VCDS to make the adaptation. So you've not seen the last of Andy. We're going to try to have him on and do more hands-on about what specific things you can. Folks have been asking us for that. So specific things you can modify if you have the tools.
Yep.
And hopefully they will have access to unlock SFD soon. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's the new security protocol that Volkswagen's used on not just the ID.4s, but many of their newer cars. And so that's why we have to use multiple tools right now and juggle things. But pretty soon, trademark, we'll have access to that through VCDS.
Yep.
So that'll be nice. Yeah, I thought that was great too. But honestly, I've enjoyed all of our conversations. Having some great YouTube personalities on here and people that are journalists and dealerships that have test driven these things. And hopefully this isn't too in the weeds for everybody. But I feel like we've had some really great conversations. I've had fun, at least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And please let us know down in comments what discussion was the most interesting for you, and where should we think about bringing the focus for the next set of episodes.
Right, because we can certainly go deeper with some of these folks we've spoken to, and maybe we could go more hands-on and not quite as deep if that's easier for people. But please let us know.
Yeah, totally. Please let us know just down in comments and or on the VWID forum. We have a post that is sticky for the feedback and all the suggestions for the next episode. So if you go to VWIDTalk, you will see a banner that will lead you to that post. So that's easy to leave feedback either wherever you are listening to your podcast or watching us two clowns here. There's also an honorable mention that I would like to say for a podcast. Chris from Better Life, he runs his YouTube channel. He is the early adopter of ID.3. So he was literally the first or second person in the world who took a delivery of the ID.3. Yeah. So he got ID software version 1. For those of us who started on 2, he was like a generation ahead of us, and he worked a lot with VW to provide a lot of feedback. And I think that maybe some of us are wishing that the innovation is driven a little bit faster, but I'm really, like, after what I've driven yesterday, I'm really grateful about my car. I love the IQ Drive. I really love the interior. Yes, we talked about a few things, but hopefully VW will fix it at some point in the near future, like this year. Like I
think yesterday. It's more that people are hopeful of what could be, and that's what's disappointing, right? Because it honestly, as far as a car, it's pretty good. They could make it great. But I felt very lucky that Chris took the time to join us. He's YouTube famous, right? He's particularly in Europe, he's based in Bavaria, and he's very well known over there. So thank you, Chris, if you're listening. Well, great. Cool. Well, we're still looking for suggestions for some new episodes. We got some things will be deeper dives, some things will be more hands-on. And we're both working on projects too. So hopefully we'll be able to do some things that are interesting to folks. But yeah, let us know.
Cool. Let us know down in comments.
Hop in the forum. Let us know.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, thanks, John.
Thank you.
We'll see you. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week, and please subscribe and join us at the VWID Talk. Thank you for watching. Bye.